Tu? Ok. Se vi accomodate cortesemente qualche minuto.
Please take your seats. We will begin in a few minutes.
Sono 5 adesso. Buon pomeriggio.
Good afternoon. Please take your seats. We have a very tightly packed hour to spend together, so let's be punctual.
Che viene domani, dopodomani, dopodomani. Il futuro è una cosa che arriverà. Quello che ci sarà domani. Tutto ciò che deve ancora accadere. Cosa c'è domani? È come il passato, ma è diverso. E poi quello che ha dato lo dà un'altra e fa così. La mamma e il papà sono una generazione e io e mia sorella siamo un'altra generazione. Che tutti siamo uguali. Papi, queste sono domande importanti. Devo cercare di dire delle cose importanti.
It is great to see our SIDA web conference room so tightly packed, so welcome. And thank you again on behalf of all the staff of Made in Steel. This afternoon's conference is an important one. First of all, I must say that it is the pride of Made in Steel and its tradition too, that the major groups, the great companies which have produced and invented products come and present them here within our framework, and we're proud to present them because we think that to carry out a business culture means designing and communicating together, because without communication everything we do takes on a different role and content, and above all it doesn't reach our customers, our clients, our consumers. It doesn't reach the people in a relationship which should be increasingly unique. What are we going to present this afternoon? We're going to present Arvzero, the steel produced by the Arvedi steel mill, which is carbon neutral. So through the Arvedi ESP technology, this is net emissions of CO2 equals to zero. It's a circular system because it's contained by the recycling of scrap, and it doesn't produce waste because more than 90% of the waste of the production process is reused. Because this is a product which, as we have seen in the video we've chosen, for this event, the 10th edition of Made in Steel, looks to the future, looks at new generations. It looks at the sustainable idea we should have of the things we do and what is our footprint in the world. And so allow me to say that Arvzero is a steel which is fully fledged to represent and summarize the philosophy and innovation culture steel business which Mr. Giovanni Arvedi, founder and chairman of the group, has pursued during his history, his entire life, and in the things he is doing and will still continue to do for us all. How will we describe Arvzero this afternoon? We will describe it first and foremost with a video prepared by the Arvedi Steelworks, which describes what is the idea of sustainability and also will provide us with the technical elements to understand what Arvzero is. And then it will be my honor to have here Mario Arvedi Caldonazzo, the CEO of Finarvedi, and together with him on the podium, we'll enter into the detail and try to understand philosophy, product, and future. And lastly, a mini talk, a kind of round table with two top-level international people, Ermete Realacci, the chairperson of the Simbola Foundation, one of the foundations who think of the quality of Italy, and the CEO of RINA, Ugo Salerno. I don't need to tell you what RINA is about, but this will be described in greater detail later. And of course, once again, thank you to you all. Thank you because you are the real prime movers of this afternoon spent together, of this hour spent together. I'd like to stop here. I'm going to ask the producers to show us the video, and then we will resume. Thank you.
Arvedi ha raggiunto importanti risultati in tema di sostenibilità e oggi ha tagliato un nuovo straordinario traguardo. L'acciaieria Arvedi è la prima al mondo certificata carbon neutral. Il percorso Arvedi verso la neutralità climatica è un percorso iniziato molti anni fa, spinto da valori imprenditoriali solidi, quali l'innovazione, l'audacia, la ricerca, il massimo rispetto per l'ambiente. Molte sono state le scelte strategiche innovative, quali ad esempio l'aver puntato 30 anni fa sulla produzione di laminati piani basati su forno elettrico, lo sviluppo di una configurazione impiantistica innovativa, il continuo efficientamento del processo, l'impiego di pannelli solari, il recupero del calore, la sperimentazione per l'impiego di idrogeno. Infine, l'impegno costante alla riduzione e riciclo di residui e rifiuti di tutta la filiera in un'ottica zero waste fanno di Arvedi uno dei migliori esempi di economia circolare. Il processo di certificazione legato al prodotto Arvzero altro non è che la formalizzazione del lungo percorso che ha portato Arvedi a raggiungere il target del Green Deal prefissato per il 2050. Siamo qui per presentare il nuovo Arvzero, quindi raccontiamo qualcosa di più sulla nascita. Che cos'è Arvzero? È l'acciaio per il futuro. È acciaio al carbonio prodotto da acciaieria Arvedi nello stabilimento di Cremona e lavorato in tutti i suoi stabilimenti di Cremona e Trieste. Perché zero? Arvzero è un acciaio realizzato per contribuire alla riduzione dei gas climalteranti o ad effetto serra. È prodotto e gestito in maniera tale che tutte le emissioni direttamente dipendenti dalla sua organizzazione siano emissioni interamente compensate per scopo 1 e 2. Zero. Zero emissioni CO2 scopo 1. Zero emissioni CO2 scopo 2. Qual è il benchmark di riferimento? In Europa l'intensità di carbonio di prodotti laminati piani è di circa 2100 kg di CO2 per ogni tonnellata di acciaio prodotto. Questo valore si riferisce ad una produzione da ciclo integrato. L'intensità di carbonio di laminati piani prodotti da acciaieria Arvedi con forno elettrico e tecnologia ESP è di 133 kg di CO2 per tonnellata di acciaio prodotto. Intensità di carbonio scopo 1 e scopo 2 di acciaieria Arvedi dopo compensazione 0. Come sono compensate le emissioni non evitabili del processo Arvedi? Mediante crediti volontari forestry, ovvero l'acquisto di corrispondente CO2 assorbita da nuova forestazione. Questo avviene tramite i crediti VCS, emessi dal principale standard internazionale Verra. Il registro dei crediti è pubblico e fornisce informazioni dettagliate sui progetti oggetto del credito. Abbiamo la consapevolezza che, oggi più che mai, il valore di un'impresa si misuri nella sua capacità di operare in armonia con la natura. Da oggi tutto l'acciaio che uscirà dall'acciaieria Arvedi sarà a zero emissioni nette e su richiesta certificato Arvzero. Arvzero. È il nostro modo di essere al servizio del futuro, al servizio del pianeta.
Beh, direi.
Well, I think this truly deserves an applause. And while you applaud, I invite Mario Arvedi Caldonazzo to join me on the podium. Welcome, Mario. Well, first and foremost, let's get comfortable, because the audience of the men and women of Steel here present show the interest they have in this initiative and in this presentation. Would you like to say something, greet them, thank them? Yes, of course. I'd like to tell them that I'm very grateful of their presence. I know that they are friends. I know that they are sensitive people, people very much aware of the topic of sustainability and the future of our planet, and that they are people who wish to share with us a path which will allow us all to truly provide a contribution for the future of our planet. I also take the floor to greet you on behalf of our founder, of our chairman, Cavaliere Giovanni Arvedi. And I would like to give him a round of applause, because if today we are here to celebrate together this achievement, we owe it to him, to his extraordinary vision and determination. an applause which is absolutely felt by all of us. Mario, the first question I'd like to ask you refers to the video. I'd like to start off with this very beautiful video and emotional at the same time, so rich in many elements. What is Arvzero for the Arvedi steelworks? How do you position it within the sustainability path and project which Giovanni Arvedi, starting from technology, has always developed in the course of his entrepreneurial lifetime, and upon which he and you are investing so much for the future? Well, Arvzero is a point of arrival. In other words, it is the result of a vision, a lot of hard work, a lot of determination. It is a point of arrival because in 2023 we launched we have achieved a result, that is the certification that the steel produced, indeed all the steel produced by the Arvedi steelworks, net to zero emissions, is carbon neutral, when the objective of the Green Deal was by 2050. So this is a point of arrival. At the same time, it's also a starting point, because we will continue to work so that we can further improve this result, reducing the 133 kilograms of Scope 1 you saw previously as much as possible, and also to lower what is Scope 3. Today, we are certified according to the GHG protocol as carbon neutral Scope 1 and Scope 2. This is the result of a vision which I could position at a date, 1989, when Giovanni Arvedi decided to found what is today the Arvedi Steelworks. And he did this with three fundamental pillars in terms of sustainability. The first, the electric arc furnace fueled by scrap, the first and still today the only case of the production of flat products from electric arc furnace in Europe. And at the time, perhaps it was only second in the whole world. The second point was that of having conceived the ISP technology, which allows us to obtain from liquid steel the coil, hot rolled, finished, without CO2 emissions. There is no presence of any source emitting CO2. Third point, the pillar of sustainability. I was recently looking at the brochures we had for the launch of the steelworks. At the time, it was called the Cremona Acciaieria ESP, and it's incredible to see how much attention Giovanni Arvedi had placed in creating the best practices in terms of sustainability. Everything was soundproof, everything was checked and controlled. The waters were internally recycled after having collected 10 minutes of rainwater, for example. So an attention to detail of great importance to all the details of sustainability. And this was in 1990. And this for three reasons. The first is an ethical reason. We know that Giovanni Arvedi has, in his professional ethics, and also, without any shame, in Christian ethics, a very important reference point. So the first thing was not to pollute. But then this was also a strategic vision. It was the vision of corporate continuity. A company which was set up at the outskirts of Cremona, literally surrounded by houses of the municipality of Spinadesco. We could not in the past, and we certainly can't do this today either, without a very high level of protection for the environment. And so there was an ethical vision, there was a technological vision, and also strategic vision, that of ensuring corporate continuity, which only sustainability and therefore respect for the environment would have allowed us to achieve. That's the date when everything started, the moment in which a new production cycle was conceived, which from liquid steel produced with an electric arc furnace with very low emissions through a process invented by Giovanni with continuous casting and online rolling, led in just a few minutes to this hot production with an environmental impact which was minimum. And then, of course, the entire path developed. And here we are promoting the launch of a product which we believe can truly respond to the needs which the steel market will require for our future years. Very well. I'd like to ask you the following question. How is it that within this path, which nearly structurally is marked by sustainability and this ethical vision of the business, but also the need, technology, innovation, and the result. How is it possible that in this moment of thoughts by the company, you decided to play in advance and to concentrate on Arvzero and bet on Arvzero? Then I'll ask you other details on Arvzero. But I wanted to understand, also to share with those who are listening today, when was it that this spark was ignited?
Well, the sparkle arrives thanks to what I have the honor to do in Brussels, also on behalf of Federacciai and of our group, as the Vice President of Eurofair. In our tables together with the European Commission, I realized that the new Commission had two mandates, sustainability and digitization. And I realized that they were not willing to compromise on these two topics. So what could be interpreted as a threat had to be seen as an opportunity. So I had a precise datum. It was the year 2018. In 2018, the person responsible for sustainability in our company, Mrs. Alessandra Barocci, proposed the life cycle assessment of our steelworks. In other words, making a map of all CO2 emission sources to develop a plan to reduce them. So our awareness, or my awareness, is related to the environment I used to work in, and was due to understanding that the Commission was going that way. And Alessandra has grown up with the Cavaliere, so she's always been aware of sustainability, and this is how we made our maps, discovering that even though we were an electric arc furnace steel mill, our carbon footprint was still very significant. Things changed in 2020, when in May we signed the program agreement to close our hot area in Trieste, to convert our production site in a carbon neutral site. That is when we removed from our carbon footprint all those Scope 1 emissions that are related to the integrated cycle. We had the sintering, coke production, and the blast furnace to prepare the pig iron in blooms that were then charged in Cremona. So we had a 50% of virgin charge, HBI and pig iron. This project is called Azimut. This project has a cost, about 500 million euro. This is what our group invested to move from a significant carbon footprint comparable to the figures we've seen before, to a zero carbon emission target. So we closed our hot area. In Trieste, there's nothing left of the pig iron production, with the exception of 3 coppers that have been kept as industrial archaeology in our wonderful historical archive. So the Trieste premise was converted into a cold rolling mill for coils coming from Cremona. And we launched a research and development project to produce steel, high quality steel, without using pig iron, the pig iron that we used to produce in Trieste. Our researchers, together with the Cavaliere, have worked hard on this project. Mr. Bianchi, our Chief Technology Officer. So the virgin material has gone down from 50% to approximately 10% of our metal charge. On top of that, our project envisages the replacement of pig iron with clean scrap. So we have invested in scrap selection and cleaning. And I would like to spend a few words about this. We were talking about this in the previous meeting. There is no decarbonization process in Europe unless you safeguard scrap. Europe produces 100 million tons of scrap and exports 20 million. This is no good because scrap is a mine. We cannot export it. We send this in Cremona. Scrap is not just steel. When you clean scrap like we do, what is left, the waste, can be processed and recovered, and it's a mine. Stainless steel, aluminium, copper, brass, many other metals can be found. And this is what we actually do in Cremona. So the hot rolling mill in Trieste was closed down, and we worked on Scope 1 in the steel mill. Where do emissions of an electric arc furnace come from? They come from pig iron, and we have said that thanks to research, which has not been finalized yet, we have dramatically reduced the share of pig iron in our EAF, guaranteeing the quality of our products. Anthracite, insufflated anthracite, which can be replaced by vegetal coal and other products, recycling plastic materials with a carbon content. Results are encouraging but not definitive yet. And finally, methane. Methane must be replaced by hydrogen, and we all know that. So natural gas must be replaced by hydrogen. So we work on Scope 1, Scope 2, and we have also invested in an extraordinary electric arc furnace with steel, provided by the Tenova technology, that has allowed us to significantly save on energy. This has also allowed us to work with a much smaller quantity of pig iron. Steel consists of iron and carbon. We all know that, so you cannot think of producing without any emission of carbon dioxide. That's why we launched our compensation project. So once our emissions of Scope 1 were significantly reduced, we opted for the voluntary compensation of the emissions by means of the forestry certificates. As far as Scope 2 is concerned, we have worked together with Enel. Enel provided us with renewable energy, and I shall be very clear. We're not talking about PPAs. We're not talking about direct connections. We're talking about supplies, in other words, supplies of renewable energy with a certificate of origin, with a CO. So Scope 1 and Scope 2 have been offset, and we have presented RINA with our project. And together with them, we have rechecked everything. They have made some corrections. And in 2022, they certified us. So we have been certified as carbon neutral, which means then when our customers require that, we can issue, and this will be done in a platform. These are all technical details, interesting ones in terms of digitization. But if the customers require this, we can issue a certificate stating the climate neutrality of the steel we sell and our customers buy. But let me tell you the following. 100% of the steel produced in Cremona is carbon neutral because the Arvedi steel mill has been certified as carbon neutral. If you want, we give the certificate. You don't need it, then it's just steel like any other type of steel. And this makes a difference compared to what we hear around. And there are some claims that might be accused of greenwashing. So it is not part of our production that is carbon neutral. All what is produced is a result of a vision, and it is all carbon neutral. A vision that started in the past with the electric furnace against the opinion of all European steel mills, except for the Italian ones producing long products, but I'm talking about flat products. So it is a result of investment. It is the result of hard work. And we're talking about €500 million in terms of investment. So we cannot compare our product with what we sometimes read from other steel mills. And our product won't be available from 2030 onwards. It is there today. And I have the pride, the honor, and the pleasure to say that we can announce the first contract and the first certificate. It is a contract for delivery in 2023 to Mercedes-Benz. In other words, our first contract is with an important brand, with a global company exerting extraordinary fascination, strongly committed to sustainability, that has chosen Arvzero steel to launch their sustainable products. Thank you. You've been very detailed and comprehensive. Thank you very much for telling us about the history, and thank you for your transparency as well. I know that transparency is an ethical attitude, and I appreciate that. Thank you also for explaining exactly how the process works and what is actually certified. The steel mill and all the steel that you produce are carbon neutral. I would like you to briefly expand on 2 points. I mean, you told us rules have not been a snooze, have not been a constraint, but rather rules have been the trampoline for our steps, accelerating what we would have done anyway. On the other hand, there's a market, your customers, but also final consumers, because sustainability has now become part of our culture. If you have children, you know that our young people ask questions. Well, considering these 2 poles that paradoxically seem to be opposed, but really are 2 big drivers that converge, I mean, what can you tell me about these 2 poles? Consumers' awareness is growing. As you told us, Lucio, the desire to choose a sustainable product is growing. The problem is that there is no clear definition of green steel. There's no definition because no agreement has been found yet. And there is no agreement because everyone tries to safeguard their own production. And we cannot wait for a definition of green steel to be accepted, in which maybe we would not even recognize ourselves. This is why we decided to anticipate with simplicity, with transparency. Our steel is carbon neutral. It is certified. Part of our emissions are offset by means of our forest certificates. And a recognized institute certificates that we are carbon neutral. Is there any demand? Well, I've just told you that we signed a contract with the most far-sighted automotive company that has decided to invest in our steel. And negotiations are ongoing with many other automotive companies. So the automotive industry is the driver, but here in this room we got many friends and customers who, so they tell me, would like to launch their own product line because, of course, they know that there is this demand. Rules have to be written down. We have tried to write them down independently. But before we really reach a shared definition of green steel, well, in my opinion, it will take some time. And I would also like to tell you the following. In the end, rules are not going to rule anything. Defining green steel might be useful for public tenders, but that's it. Let me give you an example. Mercedes-Benz embraced our project and decided to sign a contract. But first of all, they wanted to make sure that the energy from renewable sources did not come from nuclear power. This would be allowed by the European taxonomy. It's a well-known dispute with France. So from a regulatory viewpoint, you might be able to say Scope 2 has been offset. But when you go on the market, there are different acceptabilities, and this is one of them. Some may say, I like your steel, but your certificate of origin of renewable energies must exclude nuclear energy because I'm against it. It's a mentality that will develop. I don't believe that this will be determined by rules. Rather, I believe that it will be consumers asking for this and influencing producers, our steel customers, and this will therefore influence our policies. Well, you said that this is an arrival point, but every arrival point is also a starting point. So in your pathway towards sustainability, which is in your DNA, in your ideas, in what you do, which are your next steps? Well, I can see three priorities. First priority is to lower those 133 kilograms to less than 100, and this can be done. In other words, further improving and really getting closer to a scope 1 close to 0. 0 is impossible, but as close as possible to 0. Then we have to work on scope 3, which are all the emissions, the indirect emissions related, say, to the CO2 content of raw materials, transport, and so on and so forth. We're already working on this. We have already achieved excellent results in 2022. Alessandra, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have achieved a scope 3 40% reduction. Because in the future, you will also have to certify scope 3. And that's a demanding and time-consuming job. The second passage, the second step, pertains to our value chain. Obtaining the carbon neutral certification also for all the other companies in our value chain. Arvedi Tubi Chai, that is the tube and pipe makers using our steel, will also have to lower their level of emissions. Metalfair for our cold drawn profiles, and the service centers as well. And then there is a third very important step. We have to also bring Acciai Speciali Termi to being climate neutral. So we have to transfer all our know-how, all our experience to the company we have acquired in January 2022, producing stainless steel flat products. And that's the difficult target because of some peculiarities. So RINA will support us and provide us with a precious support together with the CSM. We will work together with them to reduce, and that's pure strategy, because stainless steel, I'm exaggerating, but only in Europe stainless steel is produced in electric arc furnaces from scrap. In Asia, it is produced by means of nickel pig iron. The Asian process has emissions which are 7 to 9 times higher than ours. But their cost is extremely competitive. So should the Asians press the gas pedal with their huge installed production capacity, we will be blown away. And we can only defend ourselves with sustainability. Our stainless steel will be produced in Europe with very low emissions. And we're convinced that with the carbon border adjustment mechanisms, probably the rules will play a role, but it is a customer's awareness that will lead customers to choose a sustainable product rather than a highly polluting one. Thank you very much, Mario, for spending your time with us. Thank you for all what you told us.
Thank you very much. Now Ermete Realacci will come to the podium. He's a very precious person for us because of his sensitivity, his intelligence, and the continuous support he provides us with. Today I'm particularly pleased that he can bear witness to this, and it's important that our corporate sensitivity be constantly stimulated by people like Ermete, who really helps us to have a vision. Thank you. Thank you very much. I now invite the chairman of Simbola, Ermete Realacci. We had already introduced him, just like Mr. Salerno, who is the CEO of RINA, who will join me on the podium. Welcome. Thank you. So we have a lot of irons on the fire. Let us get to the heart of the matter, but not right away, because in just a couple of words, I'd like to tell you what Simbola is. You all know who Ermete Realacci is, but just for a second, Simbola is a foundation which promotes Italian qualities, projects, describes companies, institutions improving the country, concentrating on innovation, development, beauty, creativity, and human capital. Green economy, culture, and cohesion are three fundamental indicators for us, for Simbola. There's a concept of the economy and the economy of quality. RINA is the #1 engineering and certification company in Italy. It's an international group. It supplies services in a wide range of industries, energy, infrastructure, real estate, energy, 153 million proceeds, 200 offices in 70 countries in the world. And so we are truly speaking with two prime movers. Mr. Chairman, let us start with you. Okay. So the foundation you chair has as an objective the description of Italian quality, the storytelling of Italian quality. This afternoon, I'd like to put what Mario Arvedi Caldonazzo said in context. To start, can you tell us why Arvzero can indeed be listed within this manual of excellence and quality? Well, I believe that Mario has explained this very well. I would like to say that Italy is great when it acts as Italian, when it accepts the challenges it has in front of it and uses the best quality. Italy is strong when it recognizes innovation with the green economy. From this point of view, as Mario said before, in Europe, when he chose the three words around which to organize the recovery and next generation, cohesion, digital transition, they didn't just do this. I hope that Europe is better than other blocs in the world, but it chose a line of competition for its own economy. If we want our economies to be competitive with the rest of the world in terms of quality, salaries and dumping, whether it's right or wrong, we're going to lose. Whereas we are strong when we choose that terrain. And from this point of view, the choice made by Arvedi is a long-sighted. Just listening to this discussion, I was saying before that years ago when I came to Milan, I met Claudio Cecchetto, who's neither an expert in steel nor in sustainability. I was trying to convince him to sustain one of the campaigns of Lega Ambiente. And in the end, he said, yes, okay, I'll do this, I agree. We must always anticipate our times. However, not too much. If you are too much in advance, no one will understand you. If you anticipate things by 10 minutes, you're a genius. And I must say that Mario said this really well. Congratulations, because your speech was dry, concise, very transparent, but epical. By the way you explained it, how you reach your result. What I want to say is that today, to choose this path, well, it's a path which is not indicated by Europe. It is the best path for us to do this thing. In these days, Naples won the Scudetto title. Really, I didn't know. Well, as I'm of a certain age, when it won 33 years ago on the cemetery of Naples, you know that the people of Naples have a different relationship with death compared to other Italians. There was a writing saying, you really missed something, addressing himself to the people who died. And I see that someone has read about this, who said, who told you so? So those who don't make the choices Arvedi made should say, goodness, you're missing out on a lot. And there's another thing Mario said, which is very important. We, as the Simbola Foundation, and we are honored that Arvedi is part of this. But I want to say this, speaking of steel, also Feralpi. Feralpi too carried out investments on renewables of very great importance. Previously, we were discussing this. They had promised to invest 130 million euros on photovoltaic. They then increased to 300 million. Once again, because there's a choice which makes you stronger, more independent, and more competitive. But the topic of the perception of citizens, apart from the fact that Europe must defend this choice, including with the carbon adjustment, this is very important. And we carried out an in-depth work with Pavoncelli of Ipsos to assess how citizens understand sustainability, because citizens don't read the 17 United Nations goals, the 169 targets. These are mechanisms which are good for large companies and states. I have difficulty in reading Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So there's a growing attention which has three drivers, which are very important for companies. One driver is an ethical driver, which is consolidated but small, below 10%. It's a driver linked to concern and fear, a drought, climate change. But what has enormously grown is the topic of the identification of a sustainable product with a quality product. And this is a research we did together with Arvedi, Iren, Federlegno Arrebbio, Federdop, in very different fields. What does this mean? It means that just like in other cases, and this was the same thing for organic, citizens buy a sustainable product or is in favor of a sustainable product. Mercedes wants the Arvedi steel because it perceives that in the purchaser, the fact of saying that you use that product makes you become more attractive. And so here there's an enormous space for Italy, because Italy, in creating products which the world loves, is a formidable country. When I describe Arvedi, like in other cases, I say another thing. I think that it's no coincidence, and Mario referred also to Christian values, and the Pope has said a lot of things, not just on the environment. The fact that we won't be able to face up to the future if we don't recognize ourselves as part of a single community. It is no coincidence that Arvedi and many other Italian companies, much more than what one would think, has carried out investments on the territory, apart from the Cremonese football team, very important because to have invested a lot on the Diocesano Museum, the Violin Museum and the university means that you perceive yourself as part of a community which doesn't just do production, it doesn't just make steel, it doesn't just make profits, but it accompanies that place towards the future. Thank you very much. So, for you too, my first question, Mr. Salerno, is linked to why is this an excellence? And then there's Rina. You are leaders internationally and the certification. And you have to say that the process which has been launched indeed can be certified as carbon neutral. Yes, of course. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. To certify a process, you need to know it, and you have to follow it in all its details. And this is what we have done with Arvedi to reach, therefore, Arvzero. Let me tell you an anecdote. Arvzero was born with a phone call which I received leaving a garage with my car. It was Mr. Mario Arvedi Caldonazzo who said, "Are you capable of certifying a sustainable steel, a carbon neutral steel?" So we've been working with Arvedi for quite some time now through CSM. We cooperated with Servola, with Cremona and Terni. And of course, the first answer was obviously yes. I didn't really have an idea in detail of how we would have done this, but this was something I can assure you. I remember this moment in time because it was very exciting to think that a steel producer asked himself and posed himself the objective of presenting his production as neutral from a carbon viewpoint was a wonderful signal. And it made me feel honored to be in a company which was partner of a company like Arvedi, because it means that the way of reasoning of the Arvedi company is a way of reasoning which is absolutely in line with ours. Let's go back to certification. How can we certify this? Well, first of all, we have to verify what is the carbon footprint of the products and which were the emissions. And then at this point, one of the things we can do is, thanks to a digital platform which we have called Cube, we receive directly from the steel works of Cremona especially, but also from Trieste, we receive information on volumes, on the materials they are producing. And at that point, we're in a position to certify the individual batches as Mr. Mario Caldonazzo said, and the batches sold. The batches sold can be accompanied by a certificate, which also contains a QR code where you read the history of the material. We are therefore speaking of a process which is extremely transparent, very easy to trace, and it has nothing to do with greenwashing, which is one of the fashions of recent times. One of the things we must certainly intervene upon and fight against. Otherwise, it runs a risk of making those who truly work with their conscience and in a transparent way and lose therefore importance. It's like Italian sounding and Italian cuisine and Italian food. It damages in the same way a sustainable and transparent and carbon neutral steel like the one produced by Arvedi, Arvzero, is an excellence. And it mustn't be misunderstood compared to products which can instead make us think of greenwashing. So, from a technological and production viewpoint, Mario Caldonazzo said what this has meant and also the timing. I loved it when he gave us the dates, because the dates represent a switch which starts the idea off, which starts a path or a storytelling part off. Can I ask you, from your point of view and from the point of view of RINA, the certifier, what was the commitment? How long did it take you to reach this kind of result? Well, if you indicate the commitment of RINA, the commitment of RINA concerns the certification activities, that is to have people on the field, to have the capacity of analyzing emissions. And one of our points of strength, which allows us to do this with a normal commitment, is to know the process of our customers. Thanks to CSM, which was a prime mover of steel in Italy, thanks to the growth of steel in Italy and in Finsider. Let us remember that this was set up more than 60 years ago to work on the steel produced in Italy. And we are very much linked to the steel mills. So believe me, it's the normal effort of a professional organization like ours, which had the possibility of cooperating with an absolutely transparent and up-to-date company like Arvedi. And so we worked together. It took some time, but I must say that in the end, the result is something which in the future will see further improvements. Improvements also of an economic nature, because when their cycle, as Mr. Arvedi Caldonazzo said, when we will have reduced these 130 kilos to 100 kilos, you will have to buy less compensation. And so the investments they will carry out to improve their cycle will be paid for by the fact that they will have to spend less. Those are not investments, they're expenditure, investments of others, to compensate a cycle which will become increasingly virtuous. We need some time. It's not that tomorrow morning they can truly cancel 130 kilograms or bring them close to zero. But the technologies are there. We'll study them together. We will be next to them in this process too. And the technologies will allow us to achieve this. And this is a relative effort. It's an investment. And so investments are never expenditures. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go back to you. We often say that the steel supply chain is part of the circular economy, and by definition it is sustainable. And then obviously there are different levels in this sustainability. But above all, let us say that the steel of the future will be sustainable or not. We run the risk of not being there. And that's what I really liked when you highlighted to what extent Arvedi's choice to start off before it was compulsory to do this is significant of a way, of a path, a philosophy, a corporate culture. From this point of view, given your vision with Symbola, what is our world like? And give us some suggestions. Mario said that you inspire people, that you inspire the group, and for people in general. Well, by definition, I am not, because the steel supply chain has created a major mess in Italy. But we have production means which comes from times where these were shared and they created some disasters. I remember often that in the years in which Italsider was set up in Taranto, which then became Ilva and so on, in Venice, an urban planning plan was drawn up in 1962, where the technical indications said in Marghera, this was written, those industries producing poisons dangerous for the environment and from human health, we will position there, and with noise pollution and water pollution. And they did Marghera in this way with a general consensus. I spoke to well-known people who, in good faith, reminded me that the ignorant engineers saw the operators use CVM to cool down melons. You can imagine the harmful effects of such practices. It's not done by definition. This is a positive approach instead, because we're Italian. We Italians are a little depressed. We speak of our ills without tackling them, but we're incapable of exploiting our points of strength. But in a circular economy, steel and metalworking is a boast. But in general, and next week we will present a work we do every year to our foreign press called Italy in 10 Selfies with Minister D'Urso, where we indicate, and we didn't indicate Arvedi. I wanted a selfie with Arvedi, but there's no comparison with other countries. And as the selfie construct is, this is Italy, and the others are lagging behind, but there were no others for the Arvedi example. Well, it's a problem we have in terms of measurement, and we'll speak of this with Rina too, to see if we can find some interesting indicator. So Italy is, in many sectors, very much in advance. It's a case of the circular economy. Let me add that the recovery of materials allows Italy to save 23 million tons of oil equivalent and 63 million tons. We are the third exporter of furniture. We don't have wood, and this is a problem, but we consume less energy, less water, we recover more wood to make our furniture. I love to describe the story that amongst the various sectors where Italy is a leader is the merry-go-rounds. The people of Shanghai, Copenhagen and Con Island have bought Italian merry-go-rounds. Why are Italian merry-go-rounds and fun parks so great? Because they are more beautiful, because they adapt more to the local cultures. That's what Italians are like. They said, let me think, how does a Chinese child like to have fun? And we do that. Our competitors, the Germans, they don't do the same thing. They do a merry-go-round which works properly, but if you don't like it, that's your problem. And ours consume less energy than the German ones. Did we have standards, controls, rules, incentives? No. It's the anthropology of Italian production. Let me add a point. The builders of merry-go-rounds usually are the heirs of circus families. They were not educated by Greenpeace or Lega Ambiente. They are Italian entrepreneurs. And so this is typical of all our supply chains. It's a point of strength which we do not recognize and do not enhance. Today's a sad day because we remember Aldo Moro's assassination. His corpse was discovered many years ago. And there's a sentence Moro said at a conference of 1969 of the Christian Democrats in Bari. And he said, if we still want to be present, we have to be in the things which are born, even if they are uncertain, and not for those which die, even if they appear more reassuring.
So this pushes us towards courage, but courage also needs to give value to these choices. This is not just the case of Arvedi. In Italy, the biggest company producing photovoltaic panels in Europe is in Italy. And von der Leyen said that in Brussels. She said, we European in Sicily have the biggest production of photovoltaic panels. And, you know, I mean, think about the experience like the Arvedi one. I mean, if this had happened in France or Germany, I mean, think about France. Don't you think that Mr. Macron himself would have been there with all possible TV networks saying, you want to see the future? Have a look at what we're doing. We are the future. So we also need to learn to give strength, not only in terms of carbon footprint improvement, but also in terms of communication. We must communicate that we are able to build a future. St. Augustine said once, these are bad times, so say human beings. Live well and your time will be good. We are our time. Thank you very much. Well, I would like to talk about the future, also for the role that RINA has. So Mr. Caldonazzo said this is our arrival point, but he's already imagining, together with the Arvedi group, a lot for the future. So from your viewpoint, from the viewpoint of the group that supports companies and certificates processes, how do you see the future? The development of technology will allow us to make huge steps forward in decarbonization. But we must also be very careful. We should not take anything for granted. We should not create false expectations. A false expectation, for instance, is that you can use hydrogen for everything. Hydrogen will play a fundamental role in decarbonization, and most likely in 2050, we will have huge quantities of green hydrogen. But right now, there is very little green hydrogen around. So hydrogen is going to be one of the instruments that will allow us to decarbonize hard-to-abate industries, including steel. Also, shipping is also another hard-to-abate world. Airplanes, ships, road transport means and trains are much easier because we have a project for a hydrogen train in the Val Camonica area, and that will be green hydrogen. So hydrogen will be helpful. At the beginning, it will be used as a mixture with natural gas, and it will reduce the carbon content of the fuel. But of course, we need green hydrogen, because if you use today's hydrogen, that produces 10 tons of CO2 for each ton of hydrogen produced, then it defeats the purpose. But when green hydrogen is available, we will enrich the fuel mixtures. Experiments have already been made. We have forged products with 30% hydrogen in the burner, and this is one way to go, for sure. Then we must also improve our technology to capture CO2. The emitted CO2 can be captured for the biggest part, but these technologies are still minor, but they're growing worldwide. Not so much in Italy, but worldwide there's a lot of attention towards these technologies. And a few hundreds of millions of tons of CO2 are captured all over the world, and in 2023 this quantity will almost double. And then we will see how to use it, but synthetic fuels could be a way. It is clear that the ideal arriving point is having a steel mill working on 100% hydrogen. We are working in this direction. We have a project in Pice which is funded by the European community. We will build a mini steel mill, 15,000 tons a year, so it is a workshop, using DRI, which will be generated making use of hydrogen, and the electric furnace, allowing steel producers to verify on an existing plant, which I believe is going to be the first one. There is a steel mill on hydrogen in Sweden, but there are no others. So steel makers will be able to experiment with this technology and see the impact on the different products. But this is still a target. We first have to test technology. We will start in 2026, and we will need green hydrogen. Otherwise, we are talking about nothing. So for sure, there are ways to go on improving performance, but these pathways are not totally ready. The president of Federacciai is here as well, and I would like to stress this. Italy produces 24,000 tons of steel, 21 million from EAF, with 25% of the emissions of the other cycle. The Arvedi still only 130 kilograms out of 2 tons. So we're talking about incredibly low levels. So the world of steel in Italy is a virtuous one. Of course, there's still room for improvement. Right, I will repeat what you said since you do not have the microphone. We are the most decarbonized in Europe. That's right. So 21 out of 24 million tons produced in this way shows how evolved we are compared to all our competitors. President, your last word. I liked it when you spoke about pride, when you said we must be proud. The things we do must also be communicated. And to communicate, you must be proud. Proud to be entrepreneurs, proud to be Italian, because we are able to do things in our own way, which is also much more evolved compared to others. Absolutely. As the Pope says, we have to understand ourselves as a community. This is also true for companies. I mean, sometimes we talk about Olivetti, but Olivetti was not a mushroom. Olivetti was peculiar because it had a very strong innovation thrust. But Ferrero did exactly the same. In Mantua, where the symbol seminar will take place in June, we have a report with the title Cohesion is Competition, proving that about 40% of those companies that have a better relationship with their suppliers, with their staff, with their competitors, are more successful. So if you allow me a joke, it's a little bit of a dirty joke. I mean, in the Gattopardo film, the prince tells the priest to justify the fact that he goes with prostitutes, he explains to the priest that he hasn't even seen the knee of his wife because on her nightgown there is a writing, "I do not do this for my own pleasure, I do it to give a child to God." Right. So like Mario says, we have to understand this as a big competitive challenge where you have to be very good. And I like a sentence by an American film director, Frank Capra. Actually, Frank Capra is Italian. He was born in a small village in the province of Palermo, Pisaquino. He migrated to the US together with millions of Italians, and he was treated as an immigrant. And we must remember that. I mean, if you look at Frank Capra at school as a child, of course, his skin was darker and he was smaller than all the others. So he's always on the side, far away from the others. But he became Frank Capra. And he once said, it's a very American sentence, but it pertains to what we're talking. Amateurs play because of fun when it's sunny. Professionals play to win in the storm. We got plenty of storms, I believe. Maybe there are too many amateurs. I hope that there are many professionals in this room. Thank you very much. Mario, would you like to join us for the conclusion of our event? Thank you very much. There's Mario joining us. Right. First of all, I would like to thank Ciderweb, the steel community. I would like to thank Made in Steel, represented here by Lucio. I believe that you are a magnificent example of what Ermete was telling us before, that is the will to share our experiences, our strengths, and create a community, the steel community. And today we have had the honor to give this important announcement right here in this venue. So thank you very much to Ermete, thank you very much to Ugo, thank you. We are enthusiastic of the vision of technology in the future. CSM, RINA, as a certification agency, but CSM is an extraordinary resource we have in Italy, supporting the development of our industry, and not only. So I'm really proud that CSM is Italian and is so close to all of us. So, thank you very much to all of you for your patience, for listening to us. I am excited and happy to build a future together with you, a future of sustainability. Let's create our own community to share all these values. And, as we heard today, let's take on the challenge of sustainability, which is a big opportunity. I opened in the name of Uncle Arvedi, and I'm going to close recalling him once again for his courage. He has conceived everything. He has set everything in motion, and his vision is still a big inspiration for all of us. And I'm sure that today he is very proud of all of us. Thank you very much to Alessandra and Andrea Bianchi, and thank you very much to all our employees who have believed in this. They have immediately understood how important this was. Today, it's your turn. You have to promote our steel, you have to sell it. It's your turn to disseminate it in the world, not only just as a product. It is not just steel, it is a message of responsibility towards our planet, a message of the future. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mario. Thank you very much to all of you for remaining until so late. This is the end of an unbelievable day, the first day of Made in Steel, a very intense day, rich in many, many ideas, and every one of you will take home the most inspiring message. Thank you very much. Thank you, Cavaliere Arvedi, a man who is still a source of inspiration to all of us.